everything back. We've got the depth going on. Buildings are there, but it's my job to put more detail on. Bring the figures forward, bring the buzz forward, so that there's more details in the window, so it looks like a sense of place rather than just a box on wheels. Again, with the second one, throw I mean, he's indicated where the silhouettes are. The little X's are just shorthand for a solid black. So he's shown where the silhouette needs to be. But again, everybody knows that that's the Empire State Building. But even if you're inking that, you have to look at reference to really solidify it as the Empire State Building. And then down to the bottom panel where there's a lot more shadow on the faces, just to bring the mood into the frame. That's it for that one. Okay, George Perez. This is on a Titans Games graphic novel, which is coming out in a couple of weeks. I think George on a few things. They look tight, but they are loose, in the sense that George still leaves a lot for you to do. I think a lot of inkers misread George's pages, and they just attack them as if they're just following the lines. And I think this is a mistake with George's stuff, because he puts a lot of realism, as much as it is perfect comic art. He puts a lot of realism into the figures, into the faces, and a lot of inkers make it overly cartoony. I choose to point out the realism in things. Everything is there. I recall when I first met George, when I was working at CrossGen, and he had a wicked grin on his face. He gave me a big splash page, a double page splash, with 76 figures in a bar having a fight. And he looked at me expectantly, and I was a Perez fan when I was younger. So I was just like, this is fantastic, this is gorgeous. And he was shocked. He was like, you're not intimidated by this? And I was like, I've been to Phil Winsley, this is nothing. So you know, for me, everything's there. It probably takes, okay, there's a lot of detail, but it probably takes the same amount of time as the previous pages to do. Simply because there's less thinking for me to do. And everything is pretty solid on these pages. This comes out in a couple of weeks, by the way. It's a hardcover graphic novel, which they started in 1990, yeah, something like that. And it went on a hiatus. I think Alve in the first 20 pages. And then it came back in 2004, then went on hiatus again after I think 16 pages. And then they brought it back again and said, okay, finish it. And so we actually had conversations about, should we leave Changeling's mullet hairstyle in it? And we thought, yeah, why not? Just for giggles. So he's still got his mullet hairstyle, you know, the shaved on top and the long at the back, 90s style. So we had a bit of fun with that. Is that it for the ones? Okay.
So that was the first page, just going briefly through, and while we are now changing equipment, since they're going to use the document camera, they can change. Also, they will talk about their own equipment. What kind of equipment do you use? So if you talk about what kind of equipment you use.
Wrong equipment. Can I go ahead?
I really shouldn't have. It was on. I hate inking. Generally, for most of my career, I've either worked as a pencil with a... Oh, is that closer? Is that better? Can you hear me at the back? Yeah. Good. Where's Carol Johnson?
Is it this guy's?
I generally work in pencil. It's sort of the other side of the equation here. I've worked with lots of inkers who have taken my work and done the most unspeakable things with it. It's just lines on the page, and they've just ignored what's there. My regular inker on Doctor Who is a guy called David Roach. David is a fantastic artist in his own right. He's a really good inker.
He is fantastic.
But David's a prude. Which means that when I draw characters, say large-breasted ladies or long-legged ladies, I have to draw them really large-breasted and really long-legged, because I know David is going to reduce these factors. I've had editors phone me up and say, I think you've gone too far, Mike. I said, no, David's thinking it, it'll all be fine. It's a strange sort of double thing I have to do when I'm working with him. But generally, he's amazing. I can turn out a page. Like I've just done it, for instance, about crowd scenes. I've just done a double-page spread for Doctor Who, where the writer said, this is the market in ancient Athens, the Agora. Everybody in ancient Greece was there at the same time, and that's what I want you to draw. And I thought, right, bugger it, that's what I'm going to draw. It took me the better part of a week to do this double-page spread. I sent David through a photocopy of it, half finished. And I got, do you know you can actually hear people weep in an email? What have you done? Think about Alex Toad, just do those bold lines. But he's inked it now, it's fantastic, because he's somebody I know that I can do that, and I know he'll do the work himself. So I don't mind putting in that effort when I've worked with other inkers who will just take some sort of abstract version of what I've drawn, they'll just ink every third line or something like that. One of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen was a friend of mine bought a page of Jack Kirby's Thor from the mid-1960s. Inked by an American called Vinnie Coletta. Now, Vinnie was famous because when Marvel were behind deadline, they bought Vinnie and Vinnie could ink a book overnight. The way Vinnie could ink a book overnight was by ignoring every second line.
I've got a great Vinnie story.
Yeah, oh, okay, we'll come to that. But what was just appalling about this was not only did he only ink every second line, he couldn't be asked to rub out the pencils. So when I was looking at the original page of Jack Kirby artwork, there was like half the page there that nobody's ever seen because it didn't reproduce. There's all these lines, all this detail, all this weight that Kirby put into the piece. Vince Collective just like, well, I don't need that line, I don't need that line, no, I'll just get on with that, so that's fine.
That's what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah, okay. Inking is a very specific art. I've inked myself on quite a few strips, and when I've done that, I really appreciate just how difficult a job it is to work as an inker. The best people who have inked me in the past have been people like David, have been people like Mark Farmer.
I enjoyed a couple of things.
You inked me on a couple of things, fantastic
On
stuff.
a character sketch.
Yeah, that was great. That series that, well, it did happen, it didn't happen with us.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones like, this is going to be great, but for somebody else, that was fine. What else I think we recently I really liked? Tom Palmer. Now, Tom Palmer is an American inker who's been working since the late 60s. And he inked the sort of key issues of Marvel comics, things like the Kree Skrull Wars. He inked Neil Adams on the X-Men. It was fantastic. The stuff I grew up reading, stuff I grew up loving. Probably the longest thing he did was Tomb of Dracula inking Gene Colan, and that was just a marriage made in heaven. The two styles worked so perfectly on that. Tom inked me on Wonder Woman special, and when the pages were there, I mean, one of my greatest heroes is John Buscema, a Marvel artist, even though I was working for DC Comics. I always sort of channel John Buscema's art style, the sort of robustness of the figure, sort of the dynamism of the thing. That's what I always try to do. And somebody at DC phoned me up quite sniffly and said, well, we've got the pages in by Tom. Said, it just looks like the Avengers. I'm thinking, oh, thank God, that's just wonderful. That's exactly what I want it to look like. It's still one of my favourite jobs. The cover of that book is one of the pieces of artwork I will never sell. It's me, first time. It was the first job Tom Palmer did when he left Marvel, was inking me on this cover, and I just loved that piece of work. Interestingly, he's one of the inkers that's changed me the most. And this is one thing that inkers will do, they'll tweak things.
Which is what I'm doing.
Yeah, which you're doing there. And if an inker knows what they're doing, that's great. If they don't, it can be horrible. I've seen jobs slaughtered. I've had jobs slaughtered. I've worked with an inker on a regular job for Book at DC, and when I saw the first issue out, I just phoned up DC and said, look, you know, I don't want to be prima donna about this, I don't want to be bullish about this, but you've got to take the guy off the book. I can't work with this guy. And it turned out that the guy had been a lot cannier than me, and he'd got a contract signed before I had, so he was on the book regularly and I wasn't. And I walked. I actually left the book because I just could not face being inked by that guy anymore. It was,
There's some inkers who do change the artwork significantly. And weirdly enough, a lot of the pencilers would love to work with these guys.
yeah. Tony doesn't he?
Yeah, Tony doesn't go. Bill Shankovich.
Yeah.
Klaus is great, but if he was here. Who else? Kevin Nolan.
Yeah.
And they change the art significantly. But it's always a pleasure to see it afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. Actually,